Oh yeah.
Once upon a time in the West, whole groups of people under duress. Nobody knows what planet they're on. Oh, yeah. Then one day, those who were awake noticed coming up on the horizon the possibility of truth coming back into the forefront. Death to the new world order. Death to the new world order. Death to the new world order. Order, I call it. It ain't no order, it's an order. Stinks to high. It's been getting worse. More and more stinking. Just awful. Anti-human. Anti-life. Pro-death. Oh, can't stand it. But there's a ship coming in. There's hope. Hope on the horizon. And not the kind of hope they tried to shovel down our throats last time. You get me? You get me? Now I don't know what to say. I know we gotta pray. We gotta pray. Keep praying. The truth comes out.
If you think you're in trouble, you are. If you think you're gonna get away with it, you won't. If you think you're part of the solution, get busy. Because if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Never has there been a more serious time. Never have the stakes been so high. It's the turning point of the entire universe, played out in political, economic, global theater.
Death to the new world order. Death to the new world order. Death to the new world order.
It's not something to sleep through. You're called to the point of decision. Do you live free or on your knees? The tyranny that is engulfing the world has always been. People have been locked up, locked down, cast out. With a world that has so much abundance and opportunity, they had none. For eons, none. Ruthless, cruel dictators and oligarchs stole everything from everyone. They were not content in simply having their own. They wanted to make sure that others had not. They wanted to ensure that others had nothing. And if they knew there was someone prospering somewhere, some distant island or continent, they would load their ships up and go to conquer them and put them into slavery and servitude. Just knowing there was someone free was enough to garner an attack. I hope you understand how evil this whole thing is, and understand what you have to do now.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that is Zeph Daniel and Patricia Daniel, and their music is available on iTunes exclusively. Original music composed by Zeph Daniel. It's pretty awesome. All right, welcome to the Porthole to Justice. I'm your host, Amelia Duran. It is Sunday evening, July 14th, 2019, and I'm here live with a special guest. Welcome, Mr. Lazaro.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. As always, it's amazing to come over here and be participating in the Porthole to Justice. So I'm actually humbled.
Cool. Well, it's been great because, we've known each other for years, right? We've been doing this for years, you and I. I personally think, how long have I known you?
Almost, I believe, almost 10 years, 10, 12 years. We've gone back, and actually, I went and I met you because of William Wagner. Because of William Wagner, we were able to meet and grow. I guess from the day from California that we did when we met, and then continuing to to have an amazing friendship. It's awesome. It's
I
an
know.
humble.
For years, it's like spanned a decade now. I can't even believe it. It's wild, folks. Lazaro is a activist and an advocate for folks that are entangled in this corruption. Introduce yourself and talk about yourself a little bit, because we have a lot of new listeners to the show. So go ahead and tell us about yourself a little bit.
So I'm Lazaro Ecenarro. That's Lazaro, last name Ecenarro, Ecenarro. Most of regarding me and how a lot of people actually started gravitating towards me is for the simple fact that one of the most famous cases pertaining to Native Americans and ranchers, and that's the Bundy standoff and the Hammond standoff. The Bundy standoff in Nevada, and then also the standoff in Oregon. I did not much participate, or directly or indirectly, with regards to Nevada, but with respect to the research in Oregon with the Hammond Ranch, I didn't know how corrupt the system was, and when I started exposing the system, it was just it was an eye opener. Not just regarding the research, the information coming out to helping out the ranchers and Native Americans, but also opening up the eyes regarding Child Protective Services, and I knew my case was corrupt, especially in the state of Alaska. But what happened to the Hammonds and what happened to the Bundys and other ranchers and Native Americans around that are fighting the oil industry or the government, the de facto government, it's huge. It's huge, and a lot of people being affected. And like I always stated, in everything I do, it doesn't matter about political affiliation or race, gender, or religion. We are being targeted as a God-loving Americans by our de facto government, by our treasonous government.
Exactly. You mentioned earlier William Wagner, who's a good friend of mine for many years as well. I think him and I have been friends for over a decade. I can't even believe it. He is the host. I want to mention, folks, he's the host of On Second Thought TV show, and he actually kind of inspired me. He had me as a guest on his show. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. He has a YouTube channel, and he hosts a local TV show in Santa Barbara, California, called On Second Thought. Thank you so much.
No. Well, we got to thank William Wagner.
I know.
We gotta
I
thank William
do.
Wagner.
I have to thank William.
I gotta say this. I flew down. I was in Washington. I was in Washington State, and I flew down. William Wagner took me everything to see the Michael Jackson, the ranch where Michael Jackson's at, and then also other amazing places, especially like back in the 1800s. Did the whole tour with me. I mean, the guy was amazing. The amount of energy he has, especially at his age. But then he interviewed me. He interviewed me with respects to the Bundys. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons why I flew down from Washington State to California to meet him and do the interview with respects to the Bundys and tying the uranium one with the Clinton Foundation.
Oh, wait, you're mentioning. Okay, folks. I have to interject to apologize, Laz. Okay. Laz handled, well, you pretty much are credited with a very important case in respects to the uranium one. You want to share a little bit about that, please? Go into that.
I as a researcher, when you bring out the information, you can't believe it's true. And it's difficult. And at that time, I was able to contact a lot of people with respect to the research. It was so hard for a lot of people to swallow. And I'm talking about like Dennis Michael Lynch. Difficult for him to swallow the information.
This was back in what year?
2016, after the assassination of Robert LeBoy Finnegan. So when this whole thing transpired, and I was trying to bring Dennis Michael Lynch in, and then David Knight from Infowars, it was hard for them to fathom the amount of information actually somebody would take upon themselves and actually researching it. And you and I have fought and exposed Child Protective Services to God forbid, since 2006. But here we go. Now I'm just working specifically on the ranchers and Native Americans with respect to why would the de facto government, meaning the Bureau of Land Management, the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and the United States Forestry are targeting ranchers and Native Americans. Well, I started realizing that this is all about money and corporations.
And it's all levels. And I came, that's how I met you. I came up and I'm like, Laz, you got it. But it's not just happening to Native Americans. It's not just happening on the ranch to the ranchers. It's happening to the children and families. And I showed you the documents, and that's how we became friends, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it gravitated. Everything is alike, because when you look at all the corrupt politicians, it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. Like I always say, it doesn't matter about political affiliation. When you see this, they're all involved. And when we were trying to bring this out and to the mainstream media, it was hard for them to accept it. Now, fortunately for me, I ran into what I consider one of my brothers, Leo Stratton, that he passed away, which there's a whole different story regarding that. But because of Leo Stratton, he paved the way, because he recorded everything I stated, everything that a lot of majority of the stuff, of the information that was coming out in the right after the assassination of Robert LeBoy Finnegan, is because of Leo Stratton. And Leo Stratton trying to protect my identity. I went to multiple alternative medias, and one that we started together, me and Leo Stratton, came out. And we were extremely petrified. We were petrified for the simple fact that we're exposing a lot of powerful people. Now, if like I told everybody, you go back to 2006 when the whole, prior to the uranium crisis, we were already exposing it on the alternative media, and never hit the Fox News, MSNBC, CBS, or MSNBC. The alternative media, the local people, especially there in Oregon, the Idaho 3%ers, the Washingtonians, California, Nevada, up and then near the Steens Mountain, there between sharing Idaho, which Steens Mountain shares with Idaho, Nevada, and Oregon. It was huge, because this is Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton made the Steens Mountain respects to uranium, and this is back in when he was a president. He wrote an executive order regarding the uranium and allocated $750 million for anybody who was going to be affected with uranium, including the agriculture, which included the Marines, the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy, inside this document that it was passed by the legislators. And when I found that document, it was just hard to fathom a lot of the people. And one of the